The quiet kind of love does not rush back. It returns when two people have learned how to stay. 7 months had passed since silence became peace, and peace became home. What came next was not chance, it was choice. Welcome back to Mr. Charles' Stories. I hope your day is calm, steady, and kind to you. Thank you for being here, for listening closely, and for believing in stories where love grows the right way, slowly, honestly, and with care. Today, we continue Sarah and Chris's story, not with chaos, not with regret, but with tenderness, growth, and the kind of love that stays because it is finally ready. 7 months later, Sarah's life no longer felt like something she had to brace for. Mornings came gently now. Light filtered through the curtains of her apartment instead of crashing into her thoughts. She woke without checking her phone first. She breathed before moving. She had learned how to start the day without preparing for disappointment, and that alone felt like freedom. Her days were full, but not crowded. Work had rhythm again. Meetings ended on time. Evenings belonged to her. Some nights she cooked. Some nights she didn't. The choice felt luxurious. What surprised her most was the quiet confidence. The kind that didn't need witnesses. She no longer replayed conversations in her head. No longer wondered what she could have said differently. No longer measured her worth by someone else's attention. She had chosen herself fully, and the world had adjusted around that choice. Chris existed in her past now, but not as a wound. More like a chapter she respected. Even if she never wanted to reread it, she didn't avoid his name. She didn't seek updates. When people mentioned him in passing, her body stayed calm. No tight chest, no racing thoughts. That was how she knew she had healed. Across the city, Chris lived a life that would have shocked the man he used to be. His apartment was modest, clean, intentional. No echoing rooms, no glass walls, no staff schedules pinned to the fridge. Just him, a quiet space, and mornings he no longer rushed through. He woke early, not because of meetings, but because he liked watching the sky change color. He made his own coffee. Sometimes he burned the toast. He ate it anyway. He had learned how to stay with discomfort instead of outworking it. Therapy had not softened him. It had sharpened him, made him precise with his emotions, honest in ways that felt unfamiliar at first. He no longer told himself stories to feel better. He told the truth to grow stronger. Sarah crossed his mind often, but never in the way he once imagined. He didn't picture her as something to win back. He pictured her as someone he hoped was happy. That mattered. He had learned the difference between love and possession, between regret and responsibility. They lived separate lives now, healthy ones, and still, something shifted the morning. Their paths began to lean toward each other again. Sarah was walking into a bookstore near her office, one she visited often, when she noticed the pause. It wasn't dramatic. No sudden sound, no shock. Just a stillness. She stood near the entrance, scanning the new releases, when she felt it. That awareness you can't explain until it happens. Someone familiar was close. Her body knew before her mind caught up. She didn't turn right away. She didn't need to. Chris stood 2 aisles over, holding a book in his hands, reading the back cover with the same focus he once brought to contracts and negotiations. He looked different, not older. Not tired, grounded. The sharp edges had softened. His posture wasn't defensive anymore. His shoulders rested instead of bracing. He didn't see her yet. Sarah watched him for a moment longer than she expected, not with longing, with recognition. This was the man he had become, not the one she had left. And that mattered too. She turned back to the shelf in front of her, heart steady, breath even. No panic. No urge to disappear, just choice. Chris felt it seconds later. That subtle awareness again, the kind that doesn't ask permission. He looked up, not searching, just present. And there she was. Sarah stood at the end of the aisle, leafing through a book, her hair falling forward slightly as she read. Calm, unrushed, entirely herself. The sight didn't knock the air from his lungs. It didn't send him spiraling. It grounded him. He didn't move toward her. He didn't call her name. He stayed where he was. That restraint mattered more than anything he could have said. Sarah glanced up, their eyes meeting briefly. No surprise flashed across her face. No tension pulled at her mouth. Just acknowledgement. She offered a small nod. Polite, warm, complete. Chris nodded back, equally measured. No words. No history spilling into the moment. Just two people who had once shared everything, now sharing space without fear. Sarah checked out at the counter and walked past him on her way out. Their shoulders didn't touch. They didn't stop. But something followed her outside. Not regret. Not confusion. Curiosity. Chris remained in the bookstore long after she left, not because he was frozen, but because he wanted to understand what he felt. It wasn't longing. It was respect. He left 10 minutes later and walked the long way home, hands in his pockets, thoughts clear. Sarah didn't tell anyone about the encounter. She didn't journal about it that night. She simply noted quietly that she felt safe. That mattered more than anything else. Over the next weeks, the city seemed smaller, not in an intrusive way, in a gentle one. They didn't seek each other out. They didn't avoid each other either. They crossed paths at a charity panel, at a coffee shop, once, briefly, at a community center fundraiser. Each time, the same thing happened. Eye contact, a nod, sometimes a polite hello, nothing more. No pressure, no expectations. Chris never lingered, never followed, never asked for time. Sarah noticed. She noticed the absence of pursuit, and for the first time in a long time, absence felt respectful, not empty. One evening, as she walked home, her phone buzzed. An unfamiliar number. She stopped at the curb, considering, then answered. "Sarah," Chris said, voice steady, careful. "It's Chris. If now isn't a good time, I can hang up." She leaned against the railing, watching traffic pass. "It's fine," she said. "What's up?" A pause. "I wanted to ask if you'd be open to coffee." Public, short, no expectations. Her first instinct wasn't fear. It was clarity. "Okay," she said. "1 hour." "Thank you," he replied. "I'll meet you where you choose." She named the cafe near her office. Neutral, bright, familiar. When the call ended, Sarah didn't feel rushed or unsettled. She felt in control. And that was new. The day of the meeting arrived quietly. No nerves, no rehearsed speeches, just presence. Chris arrived early, ordered tea instead of coffee, chose a table near the window. Sarah arrived on time. They stood when they saw each other. No hug, no reach, just a smile that acknowledged the past without reopening it. They sat. Chris spoke first. "Thank you for agreeing to this," he said. "I want to be clear. I'm here to listen, not to ask for anything." Sarah studied him for a moment. "I appreciate that," she replied. "So let's talk like two people who know the truth." He nodded. They spoke about work, about the city, about small, ordinary things. No heavy memories yet, no apologies. Just proof of change through tone, timing, and restraint. When the hour ended, Chris checked the time and stood. "I said 1 hour," he said. "I meant it." Sarah smiled. "I know." They walked out together. At the corner, they stopped. "Take care, Sarah," he said. "You too, Chris." They went in opposite directions, and for the first time, separation didn't feel like loss. It felt like possibility. Quiet, earned, patient. The kind that waits until both people are ready to choose it again. The hours after coffee passed without echoes. Sarah noticed that first. No replaying of sentences, no wondering what she should have said, no tightness behind her ribs. The meeting had ended cleanly, like a door closed gently instead of slammed. That night, she cooked for herself. Simple food, ate slowly. She didn't reach for her phone. She didn't open the drawer where she kept old letters. She went to bed early and slept straight through the night. In the morning, she woke with a quiet certainty. Something had changed, but nothing had been demanded. At work, her focus held. Meetings flowed. She spoke with clarity and left rooms without carrying them home. A colleague mentioned Chris's name during a funding discussion, and Sarah noticed how neutral it felt. No spike, no dip, just information. That steadiness mattered. Across the city, Chris followed through on his own promise. He didn't text her. He didn't reinterpret the coffee as permission. He didn't let hope outrun behavior. Instead, he stayed consistent with the life he had built. Work, volunteering, therapy, evenings at home with a book instead of a screen, long walks, early nights. Restraint felt different now. It wasn't denial, it was respect. 3 days later, Sarah found a small envelope waiting at her office reception desk. No return address, her name written neatly on the front. Inside was a card, no long message, just a single line. "Thank you for trusting me with an hour. I won't forget it." She closed the card and exhaled slowly. No pressure, no request, no attempt to keep the conversation alive. She slipped the card into her bag and went on with her day. The following week brought rain. Soft, steady, the kind that blurred edges and slowed the city. Sarah stood under the cafe awning near her office, waiting for it to ease, when she heard her name. Sarah. She turned. Chris stood a few feet away, holding an umbrella, clearly surprised to see her. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he replied. I didn't plan this." She smiled faintly. "Neither did I." They stood there, rain filling the space between words. "I won't keep you," he said quickly. "I just wanted to say hello." "You're not keeping me," she replied. Another pause. "Would you like the umbrella?" he asked. "I can wait." She considered him for a moment. Not the gesture, but the way he asked. No insistence, no hidden meaning. "That's kind," she said, "but I'll be fine." He nodded. "Okay." He didn't linger, didn't turn the moment into something else, just lifted the umbrella and stepped back into the rain. Sarah watched him go, heart calm, thoughts clear. That evening, she wrote for the first time in weeks, not about him, about herself. She wrote about how safety feels when it arrives without conditions, about how trust doesn't announce itself. It settles. She closed the journal with a sense of readiness she hadn't expected. 2 weeks passed before they spoke again. This time, Sarah reached out. The decision surprised her, but didn't frighten her. "Lunch," she texted. 1 hour. Same rules. The reply came quickly. "Thank you." Same cafe or your choice. She chose a different place. A small restaurant near the river. Open, bright, familiar to her. Chris arrived early again. When she walked in, he stood, waited for her cue before sitting. They talked more this time, about work in fuller sentences, about purpose, about what peace costs and what it gives back. No apologies yet, no revisiting old wounds. When the food arrived, Sarah looked at him and said, "I want to be honest." He nodded. "I'm listening." "I don't know where this is going," she said, "and I'm not trying to decide yet. I understand. What matters to me," she continued, "is that I feel respected every step of the way." "You are," he said, without hesitation, "and you will be." She studied his face, not searching for promises, checking for truth. She found it. After lunch, they walked along the river for a few minutes. Side by side, no touching, no urgency. "I'm glad we're doing this slowly," she said. "So am I," he replied. "Fast is how I used to hide." She glanced at him, surprised by the honesty. "That's not you anymore," she said. "No," he agreed. "It isn't." They parted with a shared understanding, something unspoken but solid. Over the next month, they settled into a rhythm that felt intentional. They met once a week, sometimes twice, always planned, always limited, always respectful. Public places, daylight, conversations that stayed present instead of drifting backward. Chris never filled silences. He let them exist. He listened without correcting. He remembered details, not to impress, but because he cared. Sarah noticed the difference in how her body responded. No tension, No scanning, no need to manage his emotions. She felt safe enough to soften. One evening, as they walked out of a gallery opening, Sarah stopped near the steps. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Yes. Why now?" she asked. "Why not sooner?" He didn't answer immediately. "Because 7 months ago, I would have wanted this for the wrong reasons," he said. "I would have wanted relief, validation, to feel forgiven. And now? Now I want partnership, presence, accountability, even if it takes years." She nodded slowly. "That answer matters," she said. They stood there a moment longer. Then, without thinking too hard, Sarah reached out and touched his hand. Not gripping, not holding, just contact. Chris froze, not pulling away, not leaning in. He let her lead. After a beat, she withdrew her hand. "Good night," she said. "Good night," he replied, voice steady. Chris walked home that night with a sense of gratitude he didn't try to define. Sarah lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, smiling faintly. This was different, not because the past had disappeared, because it no longer dictated the future. Weeks turned into months. They spoke more freely now, about fears, about patterns, about the parts of themselves they were still learning. Chris never defended his past. He named it, owned it, learned from it. Sarah never minimized her pain. She honored it without letting it lead. Trust didn't rush in. It grew. One quiet evening, as they sat across from each other at a small table, Sarah said, "I think I'm ready to try again." Chris didn't smile right away. He breathed. "Thank you," he said, "for choosing me again. I won't waste it." She reached for his hand this time and didn't pull away. They stayed there, fingers intertwined, no rush to say more. The city moved around them. Traffic passed. Lights flickered on. Inside, something settled. Not certainty. Commitment. If you believe real love is slow, quiet, and earned, not forced, this story is for you. What stood out to you most in chapter 1? The restraint, the peace, or the moment she touched his hand? Tell us in the comments. And if you're rooting for love that heals without chaos, subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories. Chris kept his promises, even when no one was watching. That was what Sarah noticed most. Not the occasional check-in or kind words. It was the absence of pursuit. The way he let her set the pace without slipping into silence or pushing to speed things up. There were no texts between their weekly meetings unless she sent the first word. No passive reminders of his presence. No carefully timed photos or shared memories designed to trigger nostalgia. He simply showed up each time, as if his only job was to respect the space she had fought hard to own. At work, her staff noticed a lightness in her, not distraction, not infatuation, a new steadiness. One Friday, while reviewing a proposal, her assistant Mireille knocked gently before stepping in. "You've been smiling to yourself more," she said casually. Sarah glanced up with a raised brow. Not in a "what's she hiding" way, Mireille added quickly. More like, "Your shoulders are lower. You breathe before answering emails. You're grounded." Sarah didn't deny it. "I feel like I'm no longer waiting for something," she said simply. That evening she met Chris at a quiet corner bookstore that doubled as a tea shop. No fanfare, no big moment. He was already seated when she walked in, flipping through a poetry book with a half-finished cup beside him. "You're early," she said. He looked up. Old habit. She joined him, her presence soft but certain. They spoke about work, about the new outreach cases she was reviewing. He asked thoughtful questions, not to impress, to understand. When she mentioned a particularly difficult case involving a single mother and an unfair eviction, his expression didn't shift to pity or performance. He simply said, "What do you need? Not for me to solve, just to support." She paused, caught off guard. "Honestly, nothing right now, just thank you for asking it like that." Chris nodded. No need to fill the silence. They lingered for an hour. No timeline set, no expectation of a kiss or a step forward. It was this emotional pacing, this safety, that made Sarah start to trust again. Not trust him blindly, trust herself near him. That Sunday, Sarah invited him to a community legal clinic she'd helped set up years ago in the Lower East Side. She didn't frame it as a test, but it was. He showed up early, wore a plain grey shirt, no logo, no designer label. Spent the day helping people sign up for housing consultations, budget plans, legal resources. No photos, no introductions as Chris Moret, just Chris. He listened more than he spoke, watched how Sarah moved through the room, how people looked at her with gratitude and familiarity. He didn't try to insert himself. Later, they stood outside with coffee in hand, the sun low behind the buildings. "That was the first time I've watched you work that closely," he said. She looked up at him. "And you don't save people," he said. "You help them save themselves. It's rare and beautiful." Sarah didn't reply. She didn't need to. He wasn't flattering her. He saw her. The next day, Chris dropped off a quiet gift. A box of new office supplies for the clinic, restocked pens, legal pads, envelopes, a new printer drum. No card, no signature. Sarah recognized his handwriting on the small shipping label. She placed the box in the supply room, smiling. Trust, she realized, was not built on big words or second chances. It was built on small consistencies stacked like bricks. By mid-April, they were seeing each other twice a week. Still public, still casual, but deeper now. Chris began talking more openly, not about the past, but about the man he was becoming. "I've stopped reading press about myself," he said once as they walked through the farmer's market. "It used to tell me who I was. Now it just distracts me from who I want to be." Sarah glanced sideways. "Who do you want to be?" "A man who doesn't need reminders of power to feel worth," he said. "A man who's enough in a quiet room." That was the moment she realized. He wasn't chasing redemption. He was walking in it. One evening, they attended a small private screening for a documentary about prison reform. The room was filled with policy advocates, attorneys, non-profit founders. Sarah belonged in that room. Chris followed her lead, stayed back during introductions, introduced himself simply as someone supporting reform efforts. After the screening, as people mingled, one of the panelists approached Sarah and offered to introduce her to a state official. Chris watched from a distance, arms folded, eyes steady. Later, as they walked to her car, she asked, "Was that uncomfortable for you?" "What?" "Not being the center." He shook his head. "No, you belonged there. I was proud, not threatened. I used to need a room to revolve around me to feel seen," he said. "Now I'm learning that being near the right person is better than being admired by the wrong ones." Sarah didn't respond right away, but later, when she pulled up to her apartment, she turned to him. "Would you like to come up for tea?" she asked. "No expectations?" She smiled. None. He followed her up. Her space was warm, lived in, not staged. A plant on the windowsill, a soft throw on the couch, a photo of her parents on the shelf. He sat at the edge of the couch, waiting to be directed. Sarah moved around the kitchen, pouring water into the kettle, pulling 2 mugs from the cabinet. He watched her, not because of desire, because of peace. When she handed him his cup, their fingers brushed. The contact lingered this time. "I'm not in a rush," he said softly. "I know," she replied. That night, he left after tea. No kiss, no escalation, just presence. And presence, Sarah thought, as she watched him disappear down the hallway, might be the most romantic thing she had ever been given. Sarah didn't rush herself. The old her, when love felt like pressure, would have misread Chris's consistency as urgency. She would have felt a subtle pull to match his energy, to meet affection with movement, even before she was ready. But this version of her, she understood something deeper. Consistency wasn't pressure, it was clarity, and clarity deserved clear boundaries. They met again the following week, this time at her favorite art exhibit. Quiet hallways, minimal noise, space to breathe. Chris arrived, dressed simply. He didn't compliment her appearance in the first 5 minutes. He didn't try to brush her hand as they walked through the entrance. He simply stayed beside her, present, attentive. The gallery featured oil portraits from a forgotten Harlem artist, faces of black women painted with gravity, silence, power. They stood before one titled, Still. She stayed. Sarah looked at it for a long while. She's not staying for someone else, Sarah said. She's staying because she's rooted. Chris glanced at her. I want to be the kind of man who doesn't make the people around him uproot themselves just to be understood. Sarah turned to face him, surprised by how well he heard her without her speaking. I believe you, she said, but I need you to understand something too. Say it. This is still fragile for me. I don't want to be convinced. I want to be comfortable. And if I ever ask for pause, I need you to hold still. Chris nodded. I won't move unless you're walking with me. She believed that. Later, as they stepped out into the dusky city air, Chris offered to walk her home. Sarah agreed. They spoke about everything but the past, about a child at the community center who had written a letter to the mayor about streetlights, about a new staff member at Vale who organized everything alphabetically and drove everyone half crazy. By the time they reached her building, laughter lingered. They stopped at the entrance. No tea tonight, she said gently. Not yet. Of course, he replied. I just wanted to see how you'd handle this boundary. And you handled it. Chris smiled, not in triumph, but in quiet agreement. I'll always ask the question, he said, but I won't expect the answer I want. Sarah reached into her bag, pulled out her keys, then looked up. Would you like to come up for a book? Chris blinked. A book? I have one I think you'll want to read. But just the book. His smile widened. Then yes, just the book. Upstairs, she moved comfortably through the space. He didn't follow her around. He sat on the couch, waited, looked around, not in judgment, but appreciation. She returned with a hardcover, dog-eared, and slightly worn. The author's voice reminds me of yours, she said. If your thoughts ever wrote themselves. He took the book carefully, studying the cover. He didn't make it about the invitation. He didn't look for a deeper message. He simply held the gift with care. Thank you. Sarah moved to sit across from him, not beside him, not too close. I like how still you are now, she said. It used to feel like your mind was always 10 steps ahead. I was afraid of the present, Chris admitted. I didn't know how to just be where I was. You're here now. I am. Silence followed, the kind that didn't ask to be filled. Then softly Sarah said, There's one more thing I need to say before we go further. Chris leaned forward slightly. I don't want grand gestures, she said. No rooftop setups, no surprise dinners, no redemption speeches. I don't need to be impressed. I need to be understood. He nodded. I stopped needing to be forgiven. I started learning how to be trustworthy. She let that land. You can kiss me, she said after a pause, if you want, but only if it's quiet. Chris didn't move right away. He closed the book gently, set it on the coffee table. Then he stood, stepped over, and sat beside her, close, but not crowding. He waited. She looked at him, her hand resting near his knee, not quite touching. Then, finally, she turned her face toward his. The kiss came slow. No pull, no heat, no hunger. It was presence. Soft, deliberate, almost reverent. And when it ended, Sarah leaned her forehead against his. No words, no breathless promises, just stillness. I'm glad I waited, she said. So am I. That night, he left with the book in hand and the echo of her presence steady in his chest. Sarah didn't watch him go from the window. She didn't need to. The weight of this wasn't in the leaving. It was in knowing he'd return the same way he left, without rush, without noise, without pulling her forward before she said yes. Trust wasn't built in big gestures. It was built in moments like this, a book, a kiss, and a silence that didn't feel empty. It wasn't the kiss that changed things. It was the morning after. Not because something had happened between them, but because nothing had, and still everything felt closer. Chris didn't text right away. He didn't follow up with a last night was perfect or send a good morning out of rhythm. Instead, he let the moment settle, gave her space to breathe in peace, not expectation. Sarah noticed, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel responsible for managing someone else's emotions after a vulnerable moment. The following Thursday, she called him. No texting, no waiting. Dinner tomorrow. Name the place, he said. She picked a small Italian spot tucked between a dry cleaner and a bookstore. Red brick walls, dim lighting, homemade pasta. No one important ate there, which made it perfect. Chris arrived on time. Dark sweater, soft cologne, clean lines. He'd cut his hair a little shorter. She noticed. He didn't mention it. They ordered pasta, shared roasted vegetables, and settled easily into conversation. No talk of where are we going? No questions about timelines. Just two people learning each other again. Chris listened the way most people never learned how to, without waiting for a pause to respond. When Sarah talked about a new policy conflict at Vale, he didn't jump in with solutions. He asked questions. He wanted to understand her thought process, not fix it. At one point, she laughed mid-sentence and shook her head. What? He asked. You're not performing, she said, smiling. I used to. She gave him a look. Like your life depended on being the most impressive person in the room. He didn't deny it. I wanted to be chosen so badly, I forgot what it meant to be real. She sipped her wine slowly. I think you're more real now than I've ever seen you. The honesty hung between them like candlelight. After dinner, they walked a few blocks. It wasn't cold, but he offered his scarf anyway. She declined, and he didn't insist. They stopped outside her apartment again. No book tonight, she said. He nodded, understanding. Just time. Yes, she said. And you're using it well. That weekend, they met for brunch. A sunny cafe, no dress codes, kids crying in the corner, plates clattering behind the counter. Chris didn't blink at the noise, didn't ask for a quieter table. He just leaned in and listened like nothing else mattered. Sarah told him about her teenage years. Not the polished version she gave during interviews, the real stuff, her mother's exhaustion, her own academic anxiety. The first time she realized injustice wasn't loud, it was subtle and quiet and everywhere. Chris didn't comment. He absorbed. When she paused, he reached for the water glass. I wish I had known that version of you, he said. I didn't know how to share her back then. You do now. She did. After brunch, they browsed a bookstore. Not for effect, just habit. Sarah picked up a book and held it toward him. You still read before bed? Every night, he said, and I think better after, like my mind needs stories to remember who it's trying to become. She smiled, placing the book back on the shelf. They left the store without buying anything, but something had still been exchanged. That afternoon, Sarah met with her therapist, not because of a problem, because she wanted to be sure. I'm seeing someone again, she said. Chris, yes. Her therapist paused. What's different now? Sarah sat back. He's not trying to prove anything. He's not rushing. He doesn't ask for more than I'm offering. And I don't feel like I'm teaching him how to love me. He's figuring it out on his own. The therapist smiled. And how does that feel? Safe, Sarah said, and safe didn't feel boring. It felt earned. Later that week, Sarah invited Chris to join her for a community roundtable discussion. The space was intimate. Non-profit leaders, legal volunteers, and city reps talking about policy gaps in domestic housing rights. Chris sat in the back, took notes, asked one question. Smart, relevant, brief. Afterward, he waited quietly as Sarah wrapped up conversations. You belonged in that room, he told her. So did you, she said. But I appreciated the way you let me lead. I was learning. They stood near the coffee table, now half cleared. You're not intimidated by strong women anymore, she observed. He met her gaze. I was never intimidated. I was unready. That honesty, that unflinching clarity, made her stomach flutter more than any compliment ever had. Later that night, Sarah lay in bed and replayed the sentence. I was unready. It wasn't self-pity, it was accountability. The next day, she called him, voice calm. You're free tonight. I am. Come over. She didn't add disclaimers or rules. She didn't preface it with boundaries. He already knew them. When he arrived, she was in the kitchen sautéing vegetables, barefoot, jazz playing low in the background. You cook? He teased lightly. I exist, she replied. Sometimes that includes food. They ate on the couch. She didn't dress up. He didn't overdress. They talked through 2 episodes of a documentary and drifted into soft silence between bites. When the plates were cleared and the lights dimmed, Sarah leaned her head against his shoulder. He didn't pull her closer. He didn't move. She spoke quietly. Do you know the difference between old you and now you? No. Tell me. You're not waiting for me to fall. You're learning how to stay. He swallowed hard. I want this to be our baseline, she continued. Not a phase, not a honeymoon. Just how we show up. Chris nodded. I'll hold that line with you. They sat like that for over an hour. No kiss, no escalation, just stillness, breath, presence. Love, real sustainable love, wasn't built on chemistry alone. It was being able to sit in silence without needing to fill it. And Sarah realized she no longer felt like she was managing his growth. She was witnessing it. Chris didn't knock. He waited, hand near the doorbell, until Sarah opened it. He wasn't early, wasn't late, right on time. She told him to come over after work, no pressure. He didn't ask what for. He didn't push for tone or mood. He just arrived, present, not performative. Sarah stepped aside. Hey. She was in soft cotton pants and a worn graphic tee. No makeup, no earrings, hair up, skin calm. Chris took it in, smiled softly. You look safe. It wasn't a compliment. It was an observation. She liked that. Come in, she said. Inside, her place smelled like bergamot and roasted squash. A candle flickered on the coffee table. A jazz playlist hummed low in the background. It wasn't curated for him. It was how she always lived. Chris removed his shoes, then handed her something. A thick black folder. What's this? She asked, curious. Something I want you to see, he said. No rush. Sarah opened it after dinner. Inside were notes, pages of them. Sketched floor plans, journaled thoughts, legal drafts. What is this? She repeated, slower this time. My next phase, he said. Not a company, not a brand, just something I'm building for good. The pages outlined a non-profit venture, private funding for women-led legal startups across urban communities. Chris had been working on it quietly, without cameras, without staff, just him, 2 advisors, and an honest plan. I didn't want to announce it before it was real, he said. It's not performative, it's personal. She flipped through the mission statements, paused at the section on restorative legal clinics. This matters, she whispered. I know. She looked up. Why show me now? Because you helped shape the kind of man who'd care enough to do this right. Sarah closed the folder and sat back. I thought growth was you learning not to hurt me again, she said. But this is something else. This is you creating something that has nothing to do with me, and that somehow makes it more real. Chris didn't speak. He waited. Sarah reached across the table, touched his hand. Tell me more. For the next hour, they sat with pages between them, dreaming differently than they used to. No investor buzzwords, no launch party ideas, just logistics, values, and where justice fits between silence and power. When the clock neared 11, Sarah exhaled deeply. I'm tired. But I don't want tonight to end. It doesn't have to, he said. She stood quietly, walked toward the hallway. He followed only when she looked back and gave a soft nod. In her bedroom, the air didn't shift like most nights filled with firsts. She didn't reach for him with urgency. She sat on the bed and waited. Chris stood still, I don't want tonight to be about fixing anything, she said. Not our past, not pain, not loneliness. He nodded. Me neither, she added. I want to be known, not pursued, not performed for, just known. Chris removed his sweater, then his watch, then sat beside her. No rush, no demand. They lay back, shoulder to shoulder. His fingers found hers, not in possession, but in presence. Sarah turned to him. Kiss me slow. He did. It wasn't a kiss that tried to rewrite history. It didn't tremble. It didn't ache. It just stayed. When they paused, he whispered near her ear, "This doesn't have to mean anything tonight." She shook her head. "But it does. It means everything, because you didn't make it mean nothing." Clothes were not removed in a flurry. Bodies weren't urgent. The room didn't heat up with desperation. It warmed with care. When Chris touched her back, he didn't pull. When she reached for him, he paused, checked her eyes. Consent was not just implied, it was spoken. "You okay?" "Yes," she whispered. When they made love, it wasn't hot or rushed. It was real, the kind of intimacy built not from chemistry, but trust. After, Sarah lay against him, head on his chest. His heart beat steady, no adrenaline, no fear. "I never thought I'd be able to feel this again," she said. "Feel what?" "Safe enough to let someone in. Not just into my body, into my world." Chris kissed her forehead. "I don't want to own your world," he said. "I just want to be invited into the parts you choose to share." Tears pricked her eyes. She didn't blink them back. He wiped them gently. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. "For what?" "For surviving, for forgiving, for starting over without losing who you are." They didn't say "I love you," not yet, but love was already in the room. It had arrived quietly, grown without rush, and now it had roots. The next morning, Sarah made breakfast: oats, fruit, black coffee. Chris helped wash dishes without being asked. When he left, he didn't say "next time." He kissed her cheek and said, "When you're ready again, I'll still be here." She watched him walk down her steps, sunlight brushing his shoulders, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was waiting for the next heartbreak. She felt ready for the next chapter. They didn't label it. No titles, no definitions, no updates posted. But after that night, everything between Sarah and Chris shifted into something real. Steady, warm, daily. He called once a day, not to check in, just to share. She texted him photos of her meals, her books, her late-night walks. He sent back screenshots of her impact, legal updates, non-profit wins, team changes, and sometimes silence, but not the kind that feels like a threat, the kind that feels like rest. A week later, she invited him to something personal, unexpected. "I want you to meet Dr. Noel," she said. Chris blinked. "Your therapist?" Sarah smiled. "Not anymore, but she was after the divorce. She runs the Women's Center on Tari Street. We still talk. I volunteer there sometimes." Chris looked thoughtful. "You want me to meet her as someone in my life," she said. "Not as a project, not as a favor, as a presence." He nodded. "Then I'd be honored." The community center sat behind a line of bare trees and quiet benches. No branding, no noise, just a small wooden sign and red brick that had stood longer than either of them had lived. Chris wore dark jeans, a forest green sweater, and no watch. Sarah noticed. "You left the power watch at home," she teased. "Didn't need it," he said. "I already know what time it is." She laughed. "And what time is it?" He looked at her. "Time to meet the woman who helped rebuild you." Inside, the scent of eucalyptus floated through the waiting area. Children's laughter echoed from a back room. Volunteers passed with trays and folded flyers. No one paid attention to him. For once, he liked that. Noelle came out in tan slacks, braids pulled into a soft bun, silver-rimmed glasses perched low. She was older, but not fragile. Her voice had the kind of weight you don't earn by raising your tone. "Sarah," she said, hugging her, "you brought someone." "I did." Sarah smiled. "Noelle, this is Chris." Chris extended a hand. "It's good to meet you." Noelle looked at him, not smiling, not cold, just reading him. "You want tea?" she asked. He nodded. Sarah watched the exchange. It was exactly what she hoped. They sat in her office, mismatched chairs, chipped mugs. "So," Noelle began, crossing one leg. "Why are you here, Chris?" He didn't deflect. "Because she invited me, and if she hadn't, I'd still be working to earn that invitation." Noelle took a sip of her hibiscus tea. "You hurt her." Chris nodded. "I did." "You betrayed her trust." "Yes." "You used silence like a weapon." He held her gaze. "I did." Sarah tensed, but Chris didn't flinch. "I'm not here to defend what I did," he said. "I'm here because I finally learned to face what it did to her." And to me, Noelle watched him a beat longer, then looked at Sarah. "You trust this man?" "I trust his growth," she answered. Noelle nodded slowly. "That's not the same thing." "I know," Sarah said, "but it's the first step." They spent the next hour discussing the center, how it grew, what it needed. Chris offered ideas but never solutions. He asked if they had architects, if they wanted expansion. He didn't throw around funding promises. "You listen well," Noelle noted. Chris glanced at Sarah. "She taught me how." Before they left, Noelle took Sarah aside. "You're steadier now," she said. Sarah smiled. "I'm slower now." "Good," Noelle said. "You used to run so fast toward pain that you didn't notice you deserved peace." Outside, Sarah and Chris walked down the block in silence. When they stopped by her car, she turned. "I didn't expect you to handle that so calmly." "She didn't scare me," Chris said. "She sees people, not power. I used to be afraid you'd fail that kind of test." "I would've," he admitted. Before, Sarah opened her car door, but paused. "I'm not ready to call you my boyfriend," she said, "but I do want you around." Chris leaned on the frame. "That works for me. And I don't want to pretend this is clean," she added. "It's still tender. Some days I still remember the hurt like it happened this morning." "I'll be here for all of it," he said. "Not to fix it, just to stay." She touched his chest lightly, right above his heart. "Then stay close." Chris kissed her, soft, warm, brief, not passionate, just present. Sarah's apartment had become more than walls. It smelled like vanilla and warmth now. Coats on the rack, a plant by the window, her piano again. Chris visited on Sundays, not always for long, not always with plans, but always with presence. They cooked together, read beside each other, and when it rained, they stayed in and listened. One evening, while folding laundry, she said, "Do you know, I almost quit law last year." Chris looked up. "You?" "I didn't tell anyone, not even Noelle. I was tired of surviving in sharp spaces, of winning where there was no peace." He watched her. "What would you have done instead?" Sarah smiled, soft and curious. "I wanted to open a creative space for women. Nothing flashy, just a quiet place with books, tea, art, and stories. A house where healing didn't feel like therapy. It felt like breathing." Chris leaned back. "You should still do it." She shook her head. "It's expensive and slow." He said nothing for a while. Then, "I have a townhouse I never use. It's old, near the East Side Park." Sarah froze. "You're not offering it to me. I'm offering to walk with you if you choose to reclaim what you once wanted." She sat beside him. "What if it fails?" "Then we fail softly, but not alone." The next weekend, she invited him to a small neighborhood gathering, a poetry reading in a local bookshop cafe. People greeted her by name. One woman called out, "Our lawyer. She saved my sister from a nightmare divorce." Chris let Sarah speak. He stood beside her, not in front of her. Not once did he try to be the spotlight. He looked at the flyers, bought coffee, sat close, not possessive. Later, in the car, She laughed. You disappeared the moment the crowd came. I liked watching you glow without my shadow. She leaned on his shoulder. You're learning how to love me gently. Was I rough before? He asked. She turned toward him. You were fast. Fast with assumptions, fast with apologies, fast with solutions, but not patient. And now, you're still fast with texting back, she teased, but slower with my heart. And I trust that more. One morning in March, snow still fading from the sidewalks, Chris met her outside the townhouse. It was dusty, shuttered, worn wood panels, but the inside breathed potential. Wide windows, exposed beams, a staircase that curved. Sarah walked through slowly. She ran her hand along the kitchen counter, looked at the empty room where sun spilled in wide, stopped in what used to be a child's bedroom. She turned to him. Whose was this? My niece. Years ago. She's in college now. Will you be okay letting it go? He didn't hesitate. It never really knew love after she left. Maybe now it can. By late spring, they were painting the walls together. She wore overalls. He wore one of her aprons. They argued over color tones. She liked warm neutrals. He liked deep greens. They compromised. The sign over the door would read The Quiet House. Not a non-profit, not a firm, not a retreat, just a space to breathe. One night, under dim bulbs and half-painted walls, Sarah sat on the floor, leaning against the new bookshelf. I don't want a wedding, she said. Chris, wiping his hands, paused. I mean it, she continued. I want a commitment. I want life with you. But not for guests or dresses, for me, for us. He knelt beside her. Then we make vows without volume. Sarah reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a gold key. She handed it to him. Then here's my vow. This door stays open for you, unless you close it yourself. Chris didn't speak. He pulled her into him, resting his chin on her head. I'm staying, not because I'm forgiven, but because I've learned how to remain without demanding a thing. The morning light filled Sarah's apartment slowly, curling over the edges of the beige curtains. It was late June, and the city was beginning to smell like heat, fruit stands and fresh laundry. Chris had made breakfast. He always did on Sundays now. He hummed while scrambling eggs, toasted both sourdough slices just how she liked. The soft kind of care that asked for nothing in return. But this morning, Sarah hadn't come out of the bedroom. He waited. When she finally walked out, she looked pale, slower. One hand pressed lightly on her lower stomach. Chris met her halfway. You okay? She nodded, then shook her head. I don't know. I feel heavy. He reached for her hand. Sit. I'll get you some water. She did. The couch felt bigger than usual, her breath shorter than normal. Chris brought her the water, knelt beside her. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't, she whispered. My body feels like it's not mine. He didn't rush the moment, didn't throw out guesses or suggestions. Instead, he waited until she met his eyes. Then she said it. I think I'm pregnant. The room didn't shift. Chris didn't gasp, didn't back away. He blinked once, then asked softly, do you want to be? Sarah let out a breath. I don't know. He sat beside her, slowly, then asked again, do you want me here, for whatever this means? Yes, she said, instantly, but I don't want this to define us. Not like before, not like the kind of pressure we cracked under. He nodded. Then we'll walk through this one breath at a time, not one label at a time. The next day, they went to the clinic together. Sarah watched his hand stay still beside hers. No pressure, just presence. When the nurse confirmed it, a little over 7 weeks along, Sarah didn't cry. She laughed, soft, short, almost confused. Chris asked gently, what's funny? I thought I'd fall apart, she whispered. But I feel steady. You are, he said. You rebuilt from ground zero. And now, maybe this new life gets to know your strength first. In the weeks that followed, they didn't announce anything. No family texts, No Instagram soft launch, no shopping sprees or baby books on the shelf. They went to dinner, walked the park. Chris bought mangoes because she couldn't stand the smell of her old perfume anymore. They made a habit of Sunday mornings together and left all other plans optional. When her nausea was bad, he rubbed her back. When she wanted silence, he brought her tea and left the room. When her body started changing faster than she was ready for, he reminded her she was still her. Not because she was carrying someone, but because she had always been enough. One afternoon, lying on her couch, Sarah whispered, "I want to do this without chaos." "You are..." She looked at him. "I mean, without the need to prove anything. No gender reveals, no dramatic photo shoots, just safe, quiet beginnings." Chris placed a hand on her belly, still barely a curve. "Then that's what we'll do. No fanfare, just peace." Around the 10th week, she returned to the quiet house. The floors were done. The paint had dried. Women had started showing up for the open evenings. Artists, writers, quiet souls who didn't need therapy but needed space. Sarah sat in the corner one evening, watching a young girl read her poem aloud. Chris was in the kitchen, pouring lemonade. Later that night, he found Sarah in the reading room, eyes closed, shoes off. "You okay?" She smiled without opening her eyes. "This baby has already heard poetry and the sound of safe women talking. That's a good start." Sarah sat under the lemon tree in the quiet house courtyard, barefoot again. Her hands rested loosely on her belly, now a soft swell that barely showed through her wrap dress. The evening breeze danced through the wind chimes, scattering soft notes across the quiet space. Noelle arrived with almond croissants and no expectations. She didn't hug Sarah. She didn't ask how she was feeling. She just sat beside her, handed her one pastry, and bit into the other. Sarah chewed slowly. After a while, she said it without drama. "I'm pregnant." Noelle didn't flinch, didn't smile either. She placed her half-eaten croissant on the plate and reached for her water. "You okay with that?" Sarah shrugged, still figuring it out. "Is it Chris's?" A nod. "We didn't plan it. But he's been kind, consistent, not performative." Noelle tilted her head, studying her. "Are you in love with him again?" "I don't think I stopped. I just stopped trusting that love was enough." A quiet passed between them. Then Noelle whispered, "You know what scared me the most? Not that he chose me, but that he didn't know what it meant to choose you in front of people." Sarah blinked. Noelle looked down. "I'm not proud of what happened, and I never wanted to be your enemy, but I was lonely, and he was broken, and we both used each other." Silence settled between them again. Then Sarah breathed, "I hated you." "I know. I don't anymore." "I know that too." Chris appeared at the edge of the courtyard with 2 glasses of lemonade. He paused, uncertain, when he saw the 2 women sitting so still. But Sarah raised a hand, a soft signal, and he came forward. He handed Noelle a glass first. She blinked. "Thanks." He nodded, then gave the second to Sarah and sat on the low stone wall nearby. Noelle sipped her drink. "So this is what peace feels like. No slammed doors, no side eyes, no broken glass." Chris looked at her carefully. "I'm sorry for what I was to you, for what I wasn't to Sarah. I should have walked away clean. I should have..." Noelle waved him off. "Stop. This isn't about confessions. We're all a little undone by who we used to be." Sarah touched her belly. "I don't know what this baby will inherit, but I hope they get Chris's steadiness and my silence. At least the kind that protects peace, not the kind that hides wounds." Chris stood and walked to her, crouching beside her chair. He placed his hand over hers. No words, no promises, just skin over skin. That night, Sarah returned to her favorite room in the quiet house, the one with the skylight and the wide bookshelf that still smelled of pine varnish. She sat cross-legged on the floor and cried for the first time in weeks. Not because she was scared, but because for the first time, she believed in the version of herself that didn't need to be brave all the time. Chris knocked once. She didn't respond, but he stepped in slowly. He sat behind her, legs stretching on either side, arms not touching yet. After a beat, he wrapped his arms around her from behind, low and secure. "You don't have to lead every moment," he whispered into her neck. "Let me hold this one for you." Sarah didn't reply. She leaned back. Let him hold her. And the way her shoulders softened, how her breath evened out, it said more than any sentence ever could. "Tell us what peace means to you. Have you ever chosen love without noise? Have you ever walked away from chaos and found peace waiting quietly?" Drop a comment below. We want to hear the quiet wins that changed your life. Don't forget to like this video if the moment touched you. Share it with someone who believes in second chances. Subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more love that grows in silence, not spectacle. The days had gotten warmer. Sarah didn't notice the calendar as much now. Time passed through her in waves, naps in the early afternoon, soft cravings, little pulses in her lower back. Her body was a quiet signal tower, and Chris had learned to listen for every frequency. She was 15 weeks in now. The baby bump wasn't obvious to strangers, but Chris noticed the subtle arch in her lower spine. The way her hands moved instinctively to her stomach when she sat. The way her laugh had changed. Fuller, less filtered. They didn't label anything. Not their relationship, not their future. But the way he brushed a strand of hair behind her ear before dinner, that meant something. The way she waited until he was in the room before speaking aloud her thoughts, that meant everything. That afternoon, Sarah returned to the quiet house early. The women weren't due for another hour, but she needed to breathe alone in the space. Something inside her felt unsettled, not sharp, not sad, just floating. She stood in the middle of the reading room, wrapped her arms around her own waist and whispered, "You're safe. You're allowed to feel unsure." Then, a soft knock. She turned. "It's open." Noelle stepped in, her presence always calm, always steady. She wore her usual oversized sweater, her hair tied up messily, holding 2 cups. "Decaf," she said, handing one to Sarah. "And lemon shortbread." Sarah smiled. "You read my cravings like a witch." "I read your cravings like your friend." They sat by the window. Sarah took a slow sip. "I haven't told many people about the baby. I figured." Sarah looked down at her tea. "I didn't want congratulations. I didn't want people making it about them, or about redemption arcs, or second chances. I just wanted quiet joy." Noelle's voice was gentle. "You're allowed to want that." "I know," Sarah said, then sighed. "But it's strange. The quieter it gets, the more I hear my own fear." "Name one." Sarah paused. "That I'll lose myself. That I'll become a vessel instead of a person." Noelle didn't jump in. She waited. Sarah continued. "I watched my mother become invisible. My aunt, too. Their whole lives got reduced to diapers and dinner. I want this baby. I do. But I also want to stay me. The version of me I just found again." "You're not wrong to want both," Noelle said. "And the people who matter will protect your wholeness as fiercely as they love this new life." Sarah blinked back a tear. "Chris has been different, better, steady. But sometimes I look at him and remember the version of him that forgot me. Do you still see that version in him?" Sarah thought for a moment. "No, not anymore. He shows up in ways I never asked for, ways I never even knew I needed. But I'm scared of relaxing into it." Noelle reached over, covering Sarah's hand. "Let him earn your ease." Slowly. "It's not weakness to lean. It's wisdom to check if the ground's solid before resting your weight." Later that evening, the quiet house filled with soft voices and slow music. Writers, artists, quiet thinkers, all showed up as they were. One of the regulars, a woman named Jana, brought watercolor postcards with affirmations. Chris arrived quietly around 6:30, hands full. He had brought homemade muffins and lavender iced tea, both in glass containers like he was preparing for a picnic. Sarah caught his eye as he stepped in. Chris paused briefly when he saw Noelle. She was rearranging chairs near the back. Their last meeting had been nearly a year ago, back when Noelle had been the voice Sarah clung to during the breakup. Their eyes met. Chris walked over. "Noelle." She straightened. "Chris." He nodded once. Thanks for helping her. When I couldn't, Noelle studied him. She did most of the work. I just reminded her what she deserved. Chris gave a half smile. I'm trying to be that reminder now. Noelle tilted her head. You're showing up. That's a start. Sarah watched from across the room, a hand absent-mindedly resting on her bump. For the first time in months, her past and her future were standing face to face, and neither was fighting. When the crowd thinned, Sarah sat by the shelf near the fireplace. Her feet ached. The baby had shifted position again, a little pressure low in her pelvis. That felt like the world quietly rearranging itself inside her. Chris noticed. He knelt. Do you want to sit somewhere softer? She shook her head. I'm okay. It's not the pain. It's this weird wave of sadness. Out of nowhere. Tell me. She looked at him. I don't know how to explain it. I'm happy. But it's like my body remembers grief, even when my mind is at peace. Chris nodded. Sometimes healing doesn't ask for permission before showing you what's left to feel. Sarah let her shoulders drop. It's like my bones miss someone I used to be. Chris gently reached out. She's not gone. She's resting. Let this new you hold her with kindness. The tears came without a warning. Not loud, not messy. Just a slow, hot stream of emotion she hadn't realized she'd stored. Chris didn't pull her into a hug. He didn't rush to fix anything. He simply stayed beside her, waited until her breathing calmed. Then he leaned in and whispered something that unlocked something deep inside her. If peace had a shape, Sarah, it would look like you sitting here, finally safe enough to feel everything without breaking. She let out a sound between a sob and a laugh. Why does that feel like the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me? Because it is, he said. Love doesn't rescue, it reflects. And what I see is strength that finally doesn't need armor. She looked at him through blurry eyes. I think I'm falling in love with you all over again. Then let's fall gently, he said. Together. They sat like that until the room was nearly empty. Noelle passed behind them, placing chairs back into their spots. She paused, glanced at Sarah, then Chris, and for the first time, offered a smile that had no edge. Just quiet approval. Chris parked at the edge of a gravel path just outside Oakmere, a smaller town barely 30 minutes from where the quiet house stood. Sarah glanced around, confused. This doesn't look like a cafe. He smiled. It's not. Come on. She stepped out carefully. Chris gently reached for her hand, steadying her as she adjusted to the slight incline. The sun had started to set, casting long shadows and warm gold on everything it touched. He led her down the gravel path until they reached an old stone cottage with a partially redone porch. The shutters were freshly painted. The windows still bore tape across the glass. The yard was overgrown but blooming in places where wildflowers refused to wait for permission. Sarah's breath caught. What is this? Chris turned the key in the front door. Ours. If you want it. She froze. Chris, I started renovating it a few months ago, he said, pushing open the door. I didn't know what for at first. I think I was building a second chance before I knew I was ready to ask for one. The inside smelled of pine wood and fresh paint. The walls weren't all finished. Some parts were still raw, revealing beams and wiring. But in the middle of the living room stood a couch, a soft one, blankets folded, books on a shelf. He watched her. It's not finished, but I wanted you to see the place I built while thinking about the kind of life that doesn't hurt. She stepped inside slowly. The silence stretched between them, but not in discomfort, in reverence. Sarah moved through the space like she was afraid to wake a sleeping dream. She ran her fingers over the edge of a wooden table, saw 2 mugs already sitting out. Did you do all of this? He nodded. With help. Noelle put me in touch with a few craftspeople. I learned slowly. He led her to the second room, the one with a skylight. Here, the floor was unfinished, and paint samples dotted the wall in uneven swatches. This is the nursery, she asked. If you're ready for it to be. Sarah stepped inside and stood under the window. The light caught her cheek in a way that made Chris pause. He'd spent years building homes for others, condos, luxury towers, glass and steel that kissed the sky. But nothing in his portfolio compared to what this woman and this unborn child made him feel, standing barefoot in the middle of a dream still under construction. Sarah turned toward him. "Why show me this now?" "Because I want us to choose our life, not react to it." She swallowed. "This feels permanent." "I hope so," he said quietly, "but only if it feels safe." She walked to him, took his hand, and pressed it gently to her belly. Then she said the words he hadn't dared to expect. "I want our child to know this version of you, the quiet one, the kind one. Not the man with power, but the man with patience." Chris blinked back tears. Sarah smiled through her own. "This baby deserves a father who builds slowly and stays." He nodded. "And you deserve love that lets you breathe." They stood together in the half-finished nursery. Outside, a breeze rustled the leaves. Chris pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "Would it be okay if I painted the ceiling a soft sky blue? I want our baby to look up and feel like the world is wide and safe." Sarah laughed, the sound breaking the weight of the moment. "Only if I get to pick the rug." "You've got yourself a deal." Later that evening, they lay together on the living room couch. Sarah's legs were draped over his, and her head rested on a pillow tucked into his chest. The fire crackled, slow and low. They spoke in half-sentences, unfinished thoughts, and quiet hums. "I'm not used to this kind of peace," Sarah said. Chris rubbed small circles on her arm. "We'll protect it, together." She reached for her phone suddenly. He raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" "I think it's time," she said. "I want to call my dad." Chris stilled. Sarah hadn't spoken to her father in nearly a year, not since the last fallout, when he blamed her for the chaos, told her she lacked judgment, told her to accept her marriage quietly or leave with nothing. But tonight felt different. She wasn't calling for approval. She was calling from a place of ownership. She pressed the call icon before her courage waned. It rang once, twice. Then, "Sarah." Her father's voice was older than she remembered. "Hi, Dad." A long pause. Then, cautiously, "Are you all right?" "I'm expecting." Silence. "I'm not calling to argue," she added. "I just thought you should know that I'm okay, that I'm in a good place, and I'd like us to try again, but only if you can respect the woman I've become." Her father's voice cracked. "You sound different." "I am." Another pause. Then maybe it's time I learned how to meet you as you are." Chris didn't say a word. He held her tighter. She leaned back into him, the weight of that conversation settling gently. And in that little cottage, between unfinished walls and unspoken forgiveness, something old ended and something better began. 7 weeks later, the early autumn breeze had begun to replace the summer warmth, and the trees around the cottage turned a deep gold. Leaves rustled with a kind of softness that matched the season Sarah now lived in. Gentle, patient, expectant. The front door creaked open as Chris walked in, a grocery bag in one hand and a folded flyer in the other. He dropped the bag gently on the kitchen counter, then found Sarah in the living room, curled up on the couch with her feet up, reading a book on natural childbirth. Her belly peeked visibly beneath her loose sweater. She looked up with a soft smile, brushing her hair behind one ear. "You found the tea." 3 boxes of it," he said. "And organic ginger, drops." He held up the flyer. She raised a brow. "What's that?" He walked over and handed it to her. "A birthing class. Starts next week. They do sessions for couples." Sarah read the title and then paused. "You sure you want to do this? It's going to be a lot of breathing and ice cubes and fake labor sounds." Chris dropped beside her, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I watched you rebuild your life with nothing but quiet strength. I think I can handle a little panting." She laughed, then rested her head on his shoulder. They sat there in silence for a while, the late afternoon light soft against the window. The cottage still wasn't fully finished. A few spots still lacked paint, and the upstairs bathroom door creaked. but their lives had begun to fill every space with something better than perfection: peace. The hallway outside Dr. Mena's office was bright, filled with the subtle scent of antiseptic and fresh flowers from the nearby nurse's station. Chris held Sarah's hand as they waited, fingers interlaced. Her thumb rubbed slow circles on his. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm nervous," she admitted. "What if something's wrong?" He leaned close. "Then we'll walk through it together." A nurse in blue scrubs appeared. "Sarah." They stood and followed. The room was quiet. A small machine sat ready beside the bed, and a screen waited to light up with the first glimpse of their child's shape. Dr. Mena smiled. "Good to see you both. Ready to meet someone?" Sarah laid back on the table. Chris stood beside her, his fingers still locked with hers. The cold gel made her flinch. Then the wand pressed against her belly. The screen flickered. Then a blur, a ripple, a curve. And then sound, the rhythmic, undeniable beat of a heart. Chris stopped breathing. "That," Dr. Mena said gently, "is your baby's heartbeat. Strong and steady." Sarah blinked fast. Tears threatened, but didn't fall. She looked at Chris. He looked back at her like he'd just seen something holy. Then, on the screen, a small hand moved. A flutter of fingers. A kick. Chris whispered, "That's real." Sarah squeezed his hand. "Yes, that's ours." The sky was clear, stars scattered like freckles across velvet. Chris built a fire behind the cottage, and they sat outside on a blanket, watching embers glow and fade. "Did you ever imagine this?" she asked. He poked at the fire. "Not like this. I thought I'd be the kind of man who built towers and handed people keys. But this," he looked at her belly, "this is the most important thing I've ever helped create." She smiled, turning to face him. "You were afraid once, remember? Afraid you'd never be more than who you used to be." "I remember," he said, "but you gave me space to learn a different rhythm." She reached out and touched his cheek. "You're doing more than learning, Chris. You're showing up." The wind carried the smell of burning pine and earth. It was the kind of night that didn't need music or noise. The crackle of the fire, the whisper of leaves, and the occasional creak of a branch filled the space just fine. Chris turned to her. "Do you have fears?" Sarah nodded. "All the time. About childbirth, about being enough, about not knowing how to do it perfectly." He held her hand gently. "Let's not aim for perfect." "Then what?" "Let's aim for present." She closed her eyes, letting the words soak in. Then she shifted closer. "Can I tell you something I haven't said out loud yet?" Chris turned, serious now. "Anything." She looked down. "When I first left you, I thought I'd ruined everything. My future, my stability, even my sense of home." He waited, but now she continued. "This baby, this house, this season with you, it's not what I expected, but it's what I needed." Chris reached into the pocket of his sweater and pulled out something small. A silver locket. He handed it to her. Inside was a tiny drawing, a sketch of a woman, a man, and a baby between them. "You drew this?" He nodded. "Every night after you left, I sketched what I hoped one day could be real." She traced the lines with her finger. "Will you wear it?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Every day." He leaned in and pressed a kiss to her temple. "Then we're ready," he whispered. Sarah smiled, not because everything was solved, but because everything was finally safe. The next morning brought a gentle rain. It wasn't harsh or heavy, just soft enough to tap the windows and slow the rhythm of the day. Sarah stood in the nursery barefoot, one hand resting on her belly, the other gently smoothing the cream-colored blanket over the crib mattress. The room smelled like cedar and fresh paint, a quiet space made just for peace. Chris walked in with a mug of warm tea. "Chamomile, and your second favorite cookie?" She turned and smiled. "My second favorite. You finished your first favorite last night." He placed the cup on the window ledge, then leaned against the doorframe and watched her. Sarah hesitated. "There's something I need to talk to you about." Chris straightened. "Of course." She reached into the drawer of the dresser and pulled out a folded envelope, the edges soft and a little worn. It came 2 days ago. From my mother. Chris's expression shifted, not startled, but cautious. You didn't tell me. I didn't know how. She sat on the edge of the armchair, the envelope still unopened. Chris sat beside her, slow and patient. You want to open it together? Sarah nodded. Her fingers trembled as she tore the edge. The paper inside smelled faintly of lavender and something older, a perfume she hadn't smelled in years. Her mother's handwriting was familiar, elegant, sharp, not cold, but formal, the kind of writing that once corrected her essays with red ink and unspoken disappointment. She read aloud, voice quiet. Dear Sarah, I heard from Aunt Lydia that you're expecting. I won't pretend we've spoken well in recent years, or that I was the mother you needed. But I want you to know that I think of you every day. If you want me to be part of your child's life, I'd be honored. If you don't, I will respect your silence. This is not about regret. It's about offering space to start differently. Love, Marion. Chris didn't interrupt. He waited. Sarah folded the letter carefully. I always thought she'd show up screaming or blaming me again. I never expected softness. He reached over and wrapped his hand around hers. You don't have to rush any decision. I don't hate her anymore. But I'm not ready either. I need space. Chris nodded. You don't owe anyone access to your peace, including family. She let out a long breath, like she'd been holding it for years. I think I'll write back. Not today, but soon. He kissed her hand. On your time. Chris laid the final bolt down with a satisfied sigh. I officially hate instruction manuals. Sarah chuckled from the rocker. Says the man who ran 2 companies. This crib was harder. The small wooden crib now stood fully assembled beside the window. Soft white curtains framed it. A tiny plush rabbit waited inside, surrounded by carefully folded swaddles. Sarah stood and walked over. I dreamed of this room, long before we were even us again. Chris watched her fingers run over the crib railing. I used to think everything had to be huge, the big wedding, the mansion, the image. But this, she turned to him. This little space feels more real than anything we had before. He came closer, resting his hands lightly on her belly from behind. Because it's built from choice, not obligation, not pressure, just us. She leaned into him. I love that we got here without shouting. I love that we're still becoming. He turned her gently toward him and looked into her eyes. Do you want to get married again? She blinked. You're proposing while standing next to a crib. I'm proposing because I don't need a perfect moment, just the right one. She smiled. Then yes. Chris grinned. That's it? You want me to do a speech? She teased. Maybe a little emotion. She kissed him. Slow, soft, certain. When they pulled apart, she whispered, You already gave me everything I thought I lost. I don't need a diamond right now. Just this life, this love. Chris whispered back. Then let's build it slow. The fire was low in the living room. Sarah lay across the couch, her head in Chris's lap. He played with her curls absent-mindedly, his other hand scrolling through baby name apps on his phone. She peeked up. Still stuck? Every name reminds me of someone I knew in school. You had too many friends. He laughed. Or too many rivals. She closed her eyes again. What about Elise? He paused. I like that. For a girl. He leaned down. And if it's a boy? She looked up. What was your grandfather's name? Calder. That's strong. They sat in silence, letting those names settle between them. Do you ever worry we'll mess up? She asked. Every day, but we'll keep trying. He nodded. Every day. She pulled the blanket up to her chest. You know, if someone had told me last year that I'd be in a cottage, engaged, again, and preparing for a baby with you, I would have laughed. Life's better when it surprises you. And when you choose peace, he kissed her cheek. We're ready. And in the silence that followed, there were no more doubts. Just two people, learning how to love without noise, how to forgive without forcing, and how to rebuild a life where calm didn't mean boring, it meant finally safe. The floorboards of the quiet house creaked softly under Sarah's steps. Not from age, but from settling. That's what the house had become in 8 months. A place that settled with you, not around you. Late afternoon sunlight poured in through the long windows, catching the glint of 2 mismatched mugs on the table. Chris had just left for the store, and Sarah stood barefoot, one hand cradling the modest swell of her belly, the other clutching a dog-eared notebook she'd been too scared to open. It held plans, dreams she'd scribbled in the first month after the pregnancy was confirmed, then tucked away when the fear returned. But the past few weeks had softened something in her. She'd begun letting go of the idea that love needed a plan to prove itself. Now it simply needed space and truth. Noelle arrived just after 5. She walked in without knocking, an unspoken rule they'd developed. If your presence was welcome, so was your quiet arrival. "Thought I'd find you with your feet up," Noelle said, kicking off her sandals and dropping a small paper bag on the table. "Fresh figs." Sarah smiled, easing onto the couch. "Chris went to get ice cream. I think he's nesting harder than I am." Noelle sat beside her, watching her face. "You look different. Tired?" "No," Noelle said gently. "Lighter." Sarah ran her thumb along the curve of her stomach. "He says I smile in my sleep now. I think that's peace showing up without asking." They sat in silence for a while. Then Sarah said it. "I want you to be the first to know." Noelle's brows raised, but her mouth stayed still. "I'm pregnant," Sarah said, and then let the air settle. Noelle didn't rush in with gasps or squeals. She only moved her hand forward, resting it lightly over Sarah's. "How do you feel?" "Different every hour. But mostly strong, not because of the baby, but because I didn't run from the possibility of this." Noelle smiled. "Then let this be a soft beginning." Chris returned minutes later, balancing 2 pints of strawberry basil sorbet in one hand and a bag of kale chips in the other. He paused when he saw Noelle. She looked up, her face blank at first. Then her mouth twitched, not into a smile but something less guarded than before. "You again," she said, voice dry. Chris nodded. "Me again." Sarah tensed, unsure what air would form between them. But Noelle stood, took one sorbet, and said, "I don't hold on to past noise. I just hope you're quiet where it counts now." Chris nodded once. "I am." That was the only exchange they needed. Later that evening, after Noelle left, and the house dipped into golden shadows, Sarah lit one of the soft candles she kept near the piano. She didn't play it anymore, but she liked knowing it was there. A reminder of another kind of rhythm she used to follow. Chris found her standing by the window, looking out, want to lie down. In a bit, he walked over, rested his chin on her shoulder. "You're quiet." "I thought I'd feel scared telling Noelle. I thought maybe she'd look at me and still see the woman who didn't fight hard enough back then." Chris wrapped his arms around her from behind. She saw the woman who came back to herself. "That's not weakness, that's healing." Sarah turned, face pressed into his chest. For the first time in days, she cried. Not loud, not broken. Just the kind of weeping that comes when the body finally lets something go. Chris didn't say a word. He held her as if stillness was the strongest thing a man could offer. And when the tears passed, she whispered, "Can we promise something? Anything. That if we ever start performing love instead of living it, we stop and begin again." Chris kissed the top of her head. Always. One breath at a time. The sky over the quiet house turned dusky lavender, brushing the walls in cool shadows and soft light. Sarah sat on the back porch, wrapped in one of Chris's old sweatshirts. Her fingers circled the rim of a tea mug, long since cooled. The breeze carried the faint scent of rosemary from the herb beds Noelle planted weeks ago. The world felt muted in a way she hadn't known she craved. Muted, but not dull. Alive, but not loud. Inside, Chris cleaned the kitchen quietly. No clatter, no huffing. Every movement was deliberate, gentle, almost reverent. He didn't talk about fatherhood much, not yet. But Sarah noticed the ways he kept showing up. He'd started researching midwives before she even asked. Replaced all the harsh lighting bulbs in the bedroom with soft white ones. Downloaded meditation music for her without comment, never pressing her to listen. It was in the quiet that Chris spoke clearest now. And Sarah understood him best there too. Later that evening, she walked back in barefoot, one hand brushing the hallway wall like she was memorizing the space again. She paused when she reached the gallery corridor. Walls lined with frames donated by artists who had visited the quiet house. Sarah stared at one frame in particular, an abstract of a woman curled inward, not from fear, but stillness. Rooted, not hiding. Noelle had painted it. Chris found her there, staring. "You always stop at this one," he said softly. Sarah nodded. "She reminds me of who I was when this house was only an idea." He looked at the painting, then at her. "You've grown since then. Not changed, grown. Like the house." She stepped closer to him. "What if I never go back to who I was before?" Chris tilted his head. "Then thank God. Because who you were before didn't know how to be still with herself." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. The baby shifted more than usual, fluttering low under her ribs. She got out of bed quietly, made her way to the reading room, and turned on the corner lamp. Light pooled in amber waves, warming the armchair. She opened her notebook, not the one with old plans, a new one, and she began to write. Not goals, not checklists, just sentences, one per page. Simple, honest. I do not have to be everything to be enough. Love doesn't mean never being afraid. It means not being left in it. Peace isn't what you chase. It's what you stop running from. By the time Chris walked in, rubbing sleep from his eyes, she'd written 12. He didn't speak, just crossed the room, leaned down and kissed her forehead. Then knelt in front of her and placed both hands on her knees. "You know," he whispered, "watching you choose slow over perfect has changed how I breathe." Sarah blinked at him, eyes wet. Chris smiled, brushing a thumb over her cheek. "I used to think love was big, bold, announced." She leaned in. "And now I think love is steady, safe. It's what stays when the crowd leaves." In the weeks that followed, the quiet house became fuller, but never loud. Writers stayed for evenings of journaling and gentle accountability. Mothers came on Thursdays for what Sarah called silent support nights. No talking required, just shared space and soft blankets. Chris took photos for the first time in years. Not portraits, not projects, moments. A hand on a notebook, a child asleep on their mom's lap, a line of shoes by the door. Stillness had become the new art. One evening, Sarah hosted a closed circle. 10 women. No titles, no therapy speak, no forced breakthroughs. She told her story, not the whole arc, just a single turning point. The night she chose to stay, when leaving would have been easier. Afterward, she excused herself to the back room, heart racing. Chris found her there. "You okay?" "I don't know why I shared that much. Because someone in that room needed it," he said, voice quiet. "Maybe it was you." She touched her belly. "I want our child to grow in a world where truth is not shameful." Chris kissed her hand. "Then you just built that world, one room at a time." The next morning, Sarah woke to the sound of rain tapping gently on the windows. She looked over and saw Chris still asleep, one hand resting over where she used to lie before her body changed its curves. She didn't move. She watched him breathe. The man who had once let her go when her silence was misread. The man who now held space instead of pushing answers. She reached out, placed her palm on his chest and whispered, "Thank you for not rushing my return." Chris opened his eyes slowly, smiled. "You came back to yourself. I just stayed long enough to see it." Sarah stood in front of the mirror, one hand pressed gently to her lower back, the other resting on the curve of her stomach. The final stretch of pregnancy had arrived, and her body hummed with both exhaustion and something she couldn't quite name. Peace, maybe. readiness, but also awe. "You look like art," Chris said softly from the doorway. She glanced at him through the mirror, catching his eyes before lowering her gaze. "Not polished art," she murmured, her smile lopsided. "The kind you find in an attic, covered in dust but full of story." Chris stepped into the room, barefoot and slow. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, hands resting over hers. "Then I'd frame you just as you are." Mornings in the final month moved slower. Breakfasts were longer. Conversations lingered over toast and herbal tea. Chris had rescheduled most of his work, committing to no travel, no meetings that couldn't be handled over the phone. He'd made her the promise quietly. "I missed the first part of your heartbreak. I won't miss a single second of our healing." Sarah, once skeptical of such lines, had said nothing, but she'd made space for his presence, and he'd filled it gently. At the quiet house, Noelle painted less now and spent more time helping Sarah set up the nursery. "It's not about aesthetic," Sarah reminded her, laughing when Noelle suggested a cloud mural. "The baby just needs warmth and somewhere safe to land." Noelle had paused. "You mean like you did?" Sarah blinked, then smiled. "Yeah, exactly like I did. They didn't paint the mural. Instead, they pinned notes on the wall behind the crib, handwritten thoughts, promises and hopes. You will never be shamed for crying. Your father's love will not be earned. It will be known. Stillness is a home. We'll teach you to build it inside." Later that week, Chris surprised Sarah with a letter, not read aloud, not placed in a box. It sat under her teacup one afternoon. She found it only after finishing a quiet moment on the porch. Inside was one page. His handwriting was neater than usual. "I never thought I'd get the chance to love you without fixing something first. I didn't know love could exist in stillness too. If I'm quiet around you, it's not because I have nothing to say. It's because your presence says more than my words ever could. This child of ours will never hear us shout to prove love. They will hear silence that speaks safety. They will hear laughter that never asks for permission." Sarah held the letter to her chest, feeling her heart slow to match the rhythm of something deeper than memory. That night, she lay in bed, wide awake. Chris was asleep beside her, one arm draped over a pillow, the other on the empty space between them, now occupied by her new shape. She whispered into the dark, "I used to think loving you meant surviving you. Now I think loving you means letting myself exhale." Chris stirred, eyes still closed. "Then breathe, Sarah, as long as you need to." A week before her due date, Sarah invited her mother to visit. The past wasn't erased, but the edges had softened. Her mother came with fresh bread, 3 books on natural parenting, and a blanket she had crocheted. When Sarah first got married, one she'd never delivered, unsure if it would be welcome, they spread it in the nursery, both women sitting cross-legged on the floor. "I've said sorry for what I said back then," her mother began, voice fragile. Sarah nodded. "You did. I still don't know how I missed your pain." Sarah touched her hand gently, maybe because I didn't let anyone see it, not even me. They sat in silence after that, but it wasn't heavy. It felt like a door that had finally stopped creaking on its hinges. Chris passed by the nursery door later, watching them both from a distance. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer to take a photo, didn't mark the moment, because some things don't need documentation. Some things are sacred in how they live only once, then settle into memory like a soft echo. That night, Chris and Sarah danced. No music, just the ticking of the old clock in the hallway. She leaned into him, belly between them like a gentle reminder of tomorrow. He kissed her temple. "You still love me?" she asked, like a question that had been waiting since last year. Chris didn't answer with words. He held her a little tighter. That was enough. Because love, when safe, doesn't need repeating, only remembering. The morning started like most others. Light filtered through the bedroom curtains, soft and golden. The scent of chamomile and cedarwood lingered from the diffuser Chris set each night before they slept. Sarah woke first, her back aching slightly, her belly stretched taut beneath the cotton sheet. She shifted slowly, trying not to disturb Chris, but he opened his eyes anyway. "I felt you thinking," he mumbled, voice half asleep. Sarah smiled. "I was thinking about soup." Chris sat up, rubbing his eyes. "It's 6 a.m., but I'm already honored to make it." She reached for his hand. "Not yet." "Stay." They stayed. 10 more minutes of silence, limbs tangled, hearts steady. By mid-morning, she felt the first contraction. It wasn't dramatic, not sharp or sudden, just a pressure, low and steady. She didn't panic. She stood in the kitchen and whispered, "Okay," to no one. Chris was in the backyard, trimming hedges he insisted were a metaphor for balance. She opened the screen door. "Love? I think it's happening." His clipper dropped into the grass. "Now." Sarah chuckled. "Soon. Don't rush. Just bring the bag. And maybe don't forget pants this time." The drive to the birthing center was quiet. They didn't play music. Sarah watched the road like it held answers. Chris kept glancing over. "Need anything?" She shook her head. "You're here. That's enough." They parked under a tree with yellowing leaves. Chris helped her out gently, his hands steady against her spine. "Let's meet our baby," he whispered. Labor was long but not loud. Sarah moved through waves of pain with dignity, resting when needed, gripping Chris's hand without apology. Noelle arrived halfway through. She stayed outside the room, waiting for updates. "Let them do this together," she said, when a nurse offered to bring her in. Chris had become Sarah's entire focus, not her anchor, her mirror, matching breath for breath, murmuring short words of encouragement, reading her cues like scripture. At one point, when a stronger contraction left her shaking, he leaned forward and kissed her forehead. "I love you. Not because you're doing this, but because you don't do it alone anymore." Sarah wept, not from pain, but release. Their daughter was born at 3:46 p.m., tiny, wide-eyed, silent at first, then loud enough to make everyone laugh in relief. Chris held her with trembling hands. She looked like Sarah. Same eyes, same soft chin, same quiet fierceness. "Welcome to your peace," he whispered to her. Sarah, still lying on the bed, watched them, and for a moment, time stilled. Everything she had survived had led to this hush, this heartbeat, this new beginning. They named her Aria Quinn Laurel, not after anyone, not a legacy name, just a name that sounded like music. Back home, the house felt different. Same walls, same light, but the energy had changed. Chris moved slower, so did Sarah. Their love no longer pulsed with urgency. It didn't have to fix anything. It simply existed, present, soft. Aria's cries became part of their daily soundscape. Chris learned the rhythms fast. When she needed milk, when she wanted chest to chest, when silence calmed her more than bouncing. One night, as Sarah dozed off mid-feed, Chris stayed up watching them both. No phone, no books, just his two girls breathing in tandem. At 6 weeks old, Aria smiled. It wasn't gas. It wasn't random. It was after Chris said, "You're safe, little star," and she beamed. Sarah caught it on video, but more importantly, in her heart. "Look what we made," she said. Chris nodded. His voice caught. No chaos, no damage, just love. On a Sunday morning, Sarah found herself journaling again. She hadn't in months. Her entry was short. "There was a time I wanted proof of love. Loud declarations, grand gestures. Now I believe in love I don't have to question. Love that shows up for coffee at 2 a.m., that takes the baby without being asked, that folds the laundry and whispers, 'Go nap, I've got her.' Love used to be a question. Now it's a home. The nursery, once filled with notes of hope, now carried notes of memory. They added a new one behind the crib that week. Your mother stayed soft. Your father stayed. At dinner one evening, Sarah said quietly, "Do you still feel guilty?" Chris didn't answer right away. He poured her a glass of water first, topped off his tea, and then sat across from her. "I feel responsible, not ashamed." She tilted her head. "I learned from it. I didn't bury it. That's the difference. Sarah nodded. Good, because this version of you, I want her to know him, not the one who lost me before. Chris reached across the table, lacing their fingers. She will. I promise. The spring air had returned softer than expected. Their front porch, once dusty with silence, now held the creak of rocking, chairs, and the gentle whimper of a baby who liked to watch trees sway. Chris was swaying too, barefoot, baby in arms, humming a song he made up. He didn't need lyrics. Aria liked the rhythm of his chest more than any tune. Sarah stepped outside holding 2 mugs, one with coffee, the other with warm oat milk. Chris smiled without turning. She's gonna sleep for 2 minutes and act like it was a whole nap. Sarah chuckled, sitting beside him. Just like her father, he raised a brow. Excuse me, I nap with intention. She handed him the milk. Your intention always ends in snoring. These were the mornings they used to imagine and never speak of. Back then, when everything felt like walking a tightrope between apology and blame, the idea of this simplicity had seemed foreign. But now, it was their daily language. Aria snored a little. Chris froze. Sarah whispered, "That's you, right there." He exhaled slowly. She inherited my sleep growl. Great. Inside, the living room was warm and filled with fresh memories. Framed photos lined the wall, some professional, most candid. Sarah's swollen belly, with Chris kissing her bump under the trees. Aria's first bath, crying while Chris panicked. Noelle holding the baby, her eyes watery, her smile wide. A sticky note Sarah saved that read, "You're doing better than you think. Sleep. Love me." Their story had become tangible, visible in corners of their home. Later that afternoon, while Aria napped for real, Chris pulled out the notebook again. The same one from months ago. He flipped past pages of therapy notes, business thoughts, even a few poems, then stopped on a blank one. He wrote, "Peace doesn't ask for proof. It knows when it's safe. When Sarah looks at me now, I don't shrink. I rise. This is love without bruises, without needing to win, without being afraid I'll lose her again." He didn't tell her he wrote it, but she saw it days later and kissed the page. One Saturday, Noelle visited again, this time with a man. Ben, quiet, kind, teacher, loved jazz. Sarah gave Chris a look when he arrived, the curious but not judgmental look. Noelle laughed. "Stop analyzing him like you're FBI." Chris smirked. Too late. "I've already confirmed he drinks tea, volunteers at food banks, and owns a cat named Taco." Ben chuckled. "You're good. I'm protective," Chris replied. Of both of them, dinner with them felt like family in a new dimension. Laughter wasn't cautious. Stories flowed easily. When Aria woke crying mid-meal, Ben was the first to rise to help. Sarah watched Chris notice that. She noticed too. Later that night, she said, "You didn't flinch." Chris raised a brow. When? When another man held her. He thought for a moment. "Why would I flinch?" Sarah leaned closer. "Because once, you thought love was possession." Chris ran a hand through his hair. "Yeah. Once." They didn't talk about the past often. But when they did, it wasn't to reopen wounds. It was to measure healing. Chris still attended bi-weekly sessions. Sarah journaled and walked, sometimes for miles, just to think. They both understood one truth. Healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about not reacting the same way anymore. And they hadn't, not once. Chris eventually stepped back from 2 companies. Aria deserves a father, not a provider, he told his board. She can have both, but I'm choosing her first. The press had a field day, but Chris didn't care. He sat at the piano the next night and played until Aria giggled from her bouncer seat. "You're making a fan," Sarah whispered. "She doesn't know I'm average. She thinks you're Mozart." Their quiet joy attracted curiosity. Friends reached out, old colleagues, even estranged family members. Some apologized, some didn't. Sarah chose who to let in. Not everyone earned her new piece. Chris respected that. When his father called, months after silence, Chris didn't answer right away. He waited, and when he called back, it wasn't to argue. It was to say, "You don't get to see her until you respect her mother." His father paused. Understood. Progress didn't always come in roses. Sometimes it came in boundaries. On Arya's 6-month mark, they celebrated with a picnic in their backyard. Just them. No friends, no cameras. Sarah made lemon muffins. Chris grilled vegetables. Arya played with fabric ribbons on a soft mat. As the sun dipped low, Sarah looked over. "Did you think we'd make it here?" Chris didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "No, but I prayed, and I changed." That mattered more than praying. She smiled. "I saw." They ended the night with Arya asleep in her arms and the stars beginning to scatter above. Chris stood behind her, arms wrapped around her waist, chin on her shoulder. "Next year, we take her to the lake," Sarah said. "Deal? We'll get a cabin. Just us. And Noelle." Sarah laughed. "Fine. She brings Ben." Chris nodded. "I bring extra firewood and one love song." Sarah leaned into him. "You've already written it," she whispered. He kissed her shoulder. Still writing. Summer had just begun brushing the edges of their town when Sarah found herself sitting on the nursery floor, cradling a sleepy Arya. The late evening sun poured honey-colored light through the sheer curtains, bathing everything in a quiet calm. Chris entered quietly, a cup of chamomile in hand, and crouched beside them. Arya blinked lazily, then reached up to touch his nose with her small fingers. "I think she loves that nose more than mine," Sarah whispered. Chris kissed Arya's forehead, then smiled. It's the only thing she inherited without argument. They both laughed under their breath. There were no arguments now. Not the kind that built walls. Not the kind that left bruises on voices. Only the kind that ended with understanding and maybe a foot rub. They had created a rhythm, a real one, no longer dictated by crisis or repair. They planned meals together. They shared baby duties with care, not obligation. Chris handled night shifts 3 times a week. Sarah did morning routines. They no longer kept score, because love, once lost and returned, had no room for ledgers. On their 2nd anniversary, second since the recommitment, not the original wedding, Chris did something small but deliberate. He surprised Sarah with a scrapbook titled "The Home We Rebuilt." It was filled with notes they had left each other during hard days. Arya's first ultrasound. The receipt from the cabin they stayed in during their reset trip. A printout of Chris's first therapy booking confirmation. On the last page he wrote, "You didn't stay for the man I was. You gave me the space to become the one I should have been. And I'll keep choosing you until we're old and our baby's grown." Sarah cried, not because she was broken, but because she had never felt so held. One weekend, Noelle and Ben brought over a baby swing and a bottle of non-alcoholic wine. They toasted to everything and nothing. Ben looked at Chris over dinner. "You're peaceful." "I didn't expect that." Chris nodded slowly. "I didn't either. But peace is addictive." Ben raised his glass. "Then let's all stay hooked." Sarah stepped onto the back porch that night, Arya asleep in her arms, a breeze dancing through the trees. Chris followed, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. "She'll grow up gentle," Sarah whispered, "because the home around her is finally gentle too." Chris kissed her cheek. "She'll grow up strong because she'll see her mother chose dignity without revenge." Sometimes, the world knocked again. A tabloid published an old photo of Chris and his ex-mistress, claiming a rekindled romance. The headline lasted a day. Sarah didn't blink. Chris didn't explain. They didn't need to, because inside their home, the truth had oxygen. It lived, breathed, and needed no defense. By fall, Chris opened a foundation focused on parenting education, teaching fathers how to show up, stay soft, stay strong, and stay accountable. He called it the Arya Project. Sarah sat front row at the launch. When he thanked her in his speech, her hands trembled, but not from nerves. From Pride, they took their first small vacation as a trio in October. A mountain cabin, no Wi-Fi, just books, fireplace cuddles, and one pair of tiny hiking boots. Arya refused to take off. One night, Arya fell asleep in the main room. Chris pulled Sarah out onto the porch. They wrapped up in one blanket and sat on the swinging bench. He looked at her hands. "Same hands that used to tremble when I walked in the room," he said softly. "Same hands that now rock our daughter," she replied. "And hold my heart without crushing it," he added. She looked up. "You trust me now?" "I trust us now." The final weeks of the year closed in. Arya took her first steps. Chris didn't capture it on video. He was too busy catching her. Sarah laughed so hard she cried. On New Year's Eve, long after Arya fell asleep, they stood barefoot on their porch again. Stars above, silence around. Sarah wore one of Chris's old sweaters. Chris held 2 mugs of cocoa. He looked at her for a long time. "I didn't think I deserved this." "You didn't," she said gently. "You became someone who did." Chris set his cocoa down. He went down on one knee, not with a ring this time, but with both hands over his heart. "Then, will you still wake up with me when we're grey and she's grown?" Sarah knelt in front of him, cupped his face. "I already said yes. And every morning since then, I still do. What began in heartbreak, what nearly ended in silence, found its way back to love that chose gentleness over grand gestures." Chris and Sarah didn't just return to each other. They built a new version of us, with truth, softness, and shared growth. And when their daughter took her first steps, so did they, into a future they made with their own hands. If you felt something in this story, ask yourself, when was the last time you chose love over pride? Would you fight to rebuild? If the foundation became trust, comment below, what was your favorite moment from their journey? We read every one. If you believe love can begin again, like this video, share it with someone who still believes in second chances. Subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories, where love isn't perfect, but it's always possible. We'll see you in the next one. Take care of your heart and each other.